So first off, sorry for not uploading for 4 days. I was very sick, got tested for mono, strep, the flu, and COVID. Fun times. So, second off, we'll get to the point of the video. So, apparently Devin Booker wants out of Phoenix, right? And this is somewhat surprising, maybe, possibly. I don't know. Well, first off, the source that it came from it's not Shams or Woj, right? So already I'm looking at this with a little sprinkle of doubt, you know? So that's first off. Second off, let's just get into it, I guess. So if Devin Booker truly does want out, first off, who's going to trade for him? And second off, does he really want out? So we'll start off with does he really want out, because that's kind of a precursor. And also the idea that Phoenix might not trade him. So the idea that Phoenix might not trade him, even if he does want out, is, in my opinion, the one I personally think of. Especially after that 8-game winning streak to end the bubble, right? Now, if they'd gone 4-4 or something, that would change things, right? I feel like they'd be a lot more inclined to say, blow it up, trade Devin Booker. Especially because he, wants out. If he wanted out. If not, I would say keep him for sure. But if he wanted out, I would say trade him. But since the Suns went 8-0 in the bubble, it makes it seem like they have something going for them, Even though they might not necessarily actually have something going for them, it makes it seem like it does, which makes them more inclined to run it back next season and see how the development of Booker, DeAndre Ayton, see how their development, along with their draft pick this year, see how that goes. Now, and like Kelly Oubre too, kind of forgot about him. Sorry. Now, I don't think they're going to want to trade him, personally. He's a very good player. I feel like he's in a situation similar to Bradley Beal right now, and that is he's on a team that's not built to contend, but he's able to put up these numbers. He's not good at defense. Devin Booker is Bradley Beal if Bradley Beal played in the West, okay? Now, the issue here is the defense is not ideal on this Phoenix Suns team. And the fact that Devin Booker hasn't had a dramatic improvement is kind of concerning. Like, see 8-0 run right there. That's kind of funny on the screen. Anyways, long story short, defense is not all there for the Suns. I don't think they blow it up because of the 8-0 run to end the bubble, like I said before. But if they were to blow it up, now who would they trade him to? Now, as soon as I saw this report, I was like, oh, the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I mean, in case you don't know, Cat, D'Angelo Russell, and Booker are like best friends. They are D Wade, Chris Bosh, and LeBron James, right? Of their draft class. Now, the Wolves definitely would have an interesting idea. Or an interesting trade package. We'll go with that. The reason I say that is because they have the number 1 overall pick. But the deal is, this looks like one of the weaker draft classes. Now, it's still the number 1 overall pick in a draft class. And that definitely, gives you some, like, some value is what I'm trying to say here. But at the same time, it doesn't have as much value as, say, last year's number 1 overall pick. Last year's number 1 overall pick, we had Zion Williamson, who looked like an absolute game changer, and he has looked like the absolute game changer in the NBA. But since there's no real player like that, there's no consensus number 1 overall pick, teams are both going to be a lot more inclined to trade for it. Or not trade it for it, trade it. But at the same time, it's going to have less value when they do trade said pick. So I'm not entirely sure if the number 1 overall pick would be enough to get Devin Booker out of Phoenix. Now add in a player or two, maybe Jarrett Culver, and they're looking more appetizing, I guess, to the Suns. Obviously, I'd have to do salary swap or something like that, but that's not a big deal. They can figure that out fairly easily. So, Minnesota. Now, granted, the defense on that team would probably be awful. No, it would be awful. That would be the worst defense the NBA has ever seen right there. Because all three of those guys suck at defense, to be completely honest. No offense to them, but they are just flat out trash. A dumpster fire. So that's Minnesota. Now here we have to look at the other three teams that always get brought up in trades, right? And that is the New York Knicks, the Miami Heat, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Miami Heat. I think Devin Booker could fit in Miami Heat, but obviously, I think I'm a Miami Heat fan. I think just about anyone could fit in. I do think he would fit in because he would bring scoring to the table, and that is something we lack. And the defense can be made up with Bam. I view him as I view him as a Duncan Robinson that can score all over the floor, right? But they're the same on defense. So he's like Duncan Robinson on defense, but he brings so much more offensively to the game, right? And as you saw in the finals, if you watched the finals, we were more or less able to live with Duncan Robinson being switched on to people because we would just rotate up Bam Adebayo. Or, I mean, not Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. So, I feel like we could hide him on defense, more or less. It'd definitely get more tricky once the playoffs come, especially if you would have to guard another top threat offensively like Bradley Beal or, let's say, Kyrie Irving, hypothetically. Now, what would Miami have to give up? It'd probably be a mixture of Tyler Hero, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, and some in the 20th overall pick this year. Because that's like the only pick we're allowed to trade. And the Miami Heat are only allowed to trade that pick on draft night. So that definitely complicates things. I don't think it's the best package they could get. I would almost prefer, as a Heat fan, to see how Tyler Hero develops. But that's definitely an option. And we have to say that anytime a star player wants to trade. The Miami Heat have to be one of the options. The next option that you always have to look at is the New York Knicks. And sometimes, you just have to sit and ask yourself, as a player, of course, I'm assuming. I've never actually, played a game of professional basketball, believe it or not. Sometimes you have to sit and ask yourself, am I really leaving am I leaving a bad situation for a worse one? And I say, yes, you are absolutely leaving a bad situation for a worse one. That's my opinion on the Knicks, at least. Mitchell Robinson is really the only player that looks like he has some form of potential. Dennis Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina, RJ Barrett. I hate RJ Barrett for some reason. I don't know why. I just do. Probably because he's super inefficient. But so there'd be some mixture of those guys. The Knicks have the 5th pick this year, the 5th overall pick. That have to be included in a trade package. And you have to look at it. Am I leaving that not the best situation at all? Am I leaving a bad situation for a worse one? And I think after the Suns trade, after the Knicks trade all of those players for Devin Booker, would I really be in a good situation? And the answer is no. Unless, of course, the Knicks pull off what they've always been trying to do, sign AD, trade for Chris Paul and Devin Booker and Drew Holiday. Because, it's just the Knicks. People want to play there, So then the next team, this one doesn't make sense to me, but I have to list it as a trade candidate because it always seems like they're up there. That is the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think this one happens at all. They've already run out of draft picks in the AD trade. They don't have any promising young players. They have Taylor Horton-Tucker. I mean, he doesn't exactly scream out to me future all-star. You kind of have to mention the Lakers, though, so I don't think a trade happens. Now, one other team that I thought about for a little bit, and I thought, hey, he he would fit in decently, in my opinion at least. He'd finally play with like a star point guard. And that is the Toronto Raptors. Okay? The reason I say that is Pascal Siakam, despite, looking awful in the playoffs, I think he could step it up in the regular season, get back to what he was, and probably improve a significant amount, in my opinion. Now, the question of whether he can continue down in the playoffs does exist. However, I hope, because I do like Pascal Siakam. He's a very likable player. I think he does. And then he'd be able to play with a point guard that is not elite necessarily, but also a level one, Kyle Lowry. Especially on defense, that's going to be the big thing right there, is Kyle Lowry is a much better defender than Devin Booker is, and be able to help him out, and I'm assuming teach him defense too, because Devin Booker is still fairly young, as we all know. A trade package, though, is the thing that concerns me. Especially with the fact that Fred VanVleet is likely gone this offseason. They really don't have a great pick this year. They don't have an appetizing, young player that I can look at and say, hey, this guy looks like a future star. They don't have that. They're very good at developing players. So if I'm Devin Booker, along with the Miami Heat, but if I'm Devin Booker, I'm going to be looking at that and saying, hey, they do look very good at developing players. I mean, they turned a G League guy in Pascal Siakam into most improved player, and for the first 10 games of this season, a dude that was looking like the MVP. So I would definitely look at that. And also, if I'm the Suns on that hand, I also have to look and say, hey, are the guys they're developing only good in their situation? Because I don't want to trade for a guy that's going to be, a dud. But yeah, the Raptors, I don't think that happens. I think that's the least likely one. But I kind of thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, hey, you know what? That actually kind of makes some sense. I think he stays in Phoenix, though. And if he does not stay in Phoenix, I think he goes to the Timberwolves. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Have a good day. Yeah. Peace.